All right. Hi. It's 7:30. 7:40. I'd say. Okay. I'm Ching-Hua Chin. We're here for the meeting of the Town of Boston Planning Board. Today is November 15th for the Butler subdivision, 2 Hillcrest Drive in Barnfield Manor with 2-lot subdivision. Just for the record, we go around the table and announce ourselves.
I'm Mark Hoslick, planning board member.
Greg McWilliams, Vice Chairman.
Ching-Hua Chin, Chair.
Gareth Huffman, board member.
Jim Basanis, board member.
Nancy Arce, the consulting civil engineer.
Sandy Anelli, secretary.
David Stolman, town planner.
Kathy Zalantis, planning board attorney.
Great, thank you all. Just before we get on to the item on the agenda, we do have some issues that we wish to discuss in executive session.
Yeah, to go into executive session for legal advice.
Okay, so we would like to close the meeting for now for an executive session and have the public and be called back in afterwards.
To make a motion to go into executive session.
Do I have a motion to make the motion? Any seconds?
Second.
Thank you. Any objections? No? No? Thank you all. Thank you. Any objections? Okay, we're back on public session. Okay, going back to our item on the agenda, the Butler subdivision, is the applicant present?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a presentation or further comments on this one?
No, not really. Very quick statement. We made a submission in October, modified the plans. There were a few notes that the planning board was looking for to be placed on the plan. We've come up with this plan, this new plan, that shows a driveway allocation of financial responsibility, so to speak, tied to a maintenance agreement, driveway maintenance agreement that's forthcoming. So this is really for discussion purposes at this time. If you'd like to discuss that, we can. But we've, I think, addressed the town engineer's comments. We've reviewed the draft resolution of approval. It all looks like it's fairly in order. We know the conditions. We know what we need to do to satisfy the conditions ultimately. So we're here to really possibly go through the resolution and listen to what the board and if the public has anything else to say.
Have you actually spoken to any members of the public about this proportion?
We've not, only because we haven't, we have a draft of the driveway maintenance agreement. The attorney was away for a few weeks. He hasn't cleaned it up. What I wanted to do before this meeting was take the draft and talk to the 2 or 3 neighbors that would be involved with this potentially. I just haven't done it yet because we don't have the final draft in hand. But I do plan on doing that within the next week or so.
Do you want to describe in general what the broad concepts of your offer was going to be?
Sure.
Sure.
Essentially, this is Hillcrest Drive. This is the Cantrowitz house. This is the existing driveway and house that's owned by Butler. This is the new proposed house. And there's also a lot here with a garage. These are really the 4 of the affected, quote-unquote, could you see? I'm sorry. 4 of the affected lots. The scenario is that we did an analysis, a proportionate analysis of who uses the driveway and for what particular length. So if we take the total length of shared driveway, which is essentially about 317 feet from Deer Trail to this point, which is where the Cantrowitz driveway and the proposed driveway splits. So there's 317 total linear feet of shared driveway access. And we divided that up by the portions of the shared driveway that each of the homeowners use. You come up with a formula, if you will. So for example, Lot A, we're calling it, only shares or only uses about 22 linear feet of the 317 feet. Lot B, which is the detached garage, uses about 142 linear feet of the 317 total. And both Butler's proposed lot D and Cantrowich, which we're calling C, both use 170, 120, that's 290 and 22, about 312 or so, well, 317 feet. So if you proportion a ratio, 22 feet over 317, 120 feet over 317, and 170 feet over 317, you come up with a, essentially a ratio of proportionate usage, if you will, which equates to a potential proportionate financial burden as to who would contribute. They would all contribute to the maintenance of the driveway, but in what proportions. So essentially what it comes down to is parcel A, only using 22 feet, is about 1.8% of the driveway. Parcel B is about 14.6% of the driveway. And parcels C and D is about 41.8% each of the driveway. So this is generally the way these types of things are done when it's a new subdivision. There's 4 lots on a common driveway. This is how it's usually divvied up in this manner. So we put that forth. Obviously, it's the first time the planning board's seeing it, probably the first time the public is seeing it. But this will be, our intention is for this analysis to be tied in with the driveway agreement, the written agreement, and have it be one document, in the hopes that these 4 property owners share in the ultimate maintenance of the driveway. So this is what we're putting forth. Obviously, they haven't had an opportunity to review it, neither have you. So I can get this information to the neighbors. Certainly you have the information, and we're here to discuss it tonight.
Okay, any other items you wish to bring before the board at this time?
No. I mean, again, based on the few comments that we received last time, we've proposed some landscaping, some screening. What we've noted in the cover letter is that we're showing, I believe we're showing five evergreen trees here. We're showing 3 evergreen trees here on the other side of the guardrail. They can be moved in the field. Once the house is built, we can have discussions with the neighbors if those 5 want to be shifted here or want to be shifted there for better screening. We're open to that. But right now, in general, we're proposing 5 evergreens in this location somewhere and 3 evergreens in this location. We've prepared this plan. We've modified the guardrail so that we have a minimum of 16 feet of width. You probably recall at the last meeting, the neighbor to the south was concerned that the guardrail was coming up too much into the easement. We were able to cut that back, regrade the driveway a little bit, so that we're now providing a clear 16-foot potential width for this homeowner if they decide to use this in the future. That guardrail is stopped short enough so that there's 16 total feet. I think that's it. We had Dan Ciarci, the town engineer, put forth a memo. We've addressed, I think, the majority of Dan's comments, but in reading the draft resolution of approval, I think one of the conditions in there was to make sure that all of Dan's comments were satisfied, and there's a couple of other conditions in there that would need to be satisfied before the chairman signs the plat, and then before the building permit is issued. So nothing in there seemed earth-shattering. We have every intention of addressing all of those conditions.
Have you had an opportunity to look at the correspondences that the planning board received from the public since our last meeting?
I received 3 letters, I think, today. 2 letters and an email, and we read through them. Haven't had much time to dive into them, but we read through them. It seemed like pretty much similar comments to what we've received in the past, but we did go through them briefly.
You have no responses at this point?
I'm sorry?
You have no responses at this point, you're saying, to those letters?
No, other than the responses that we've responded to with previous comments. A lot of them are the same comments.
Any questions from the board? No. Does staff want to, should we go into,
Resolution,
yes?
we certainly can. Would you like me to walk through it for you?
Yep, let's walk through it.
So if it's okay with you, I'll paraphrase the whereas clauses and then read the conditions. What we generally do. So on the first page, it says Butler resolution of minor subdivision plat, steep slope permit, and tree removal permit approvals. And in the first paragraph, the applicant and owner is identified by name. The size of the property is given. The fact that the subdivision involves 2 lots and the sizes of each lot are given. And the fact that it's in an R30 one-family residence district. Then the second whereas, the applicant has also applied for steep slope permit and tree removal permit approvals. And then we give the date at which the planning board, on which the zoning board of appeals granted a variance with respect to required street frontage for lot 2. And then we say that the proposed action, which is a defined term, includes the planning board subdivision approval, steep slope permit, and tree removal permit approvals, and the ZBA variance. Then we say that the existing home on lot number 1 would be maintained, and lot 2 would be improved with a new single-family home. And then the next whereas, the tax map designation and the address of the property. And the next whereas, the fact that Hillcrest Drive is a paper street. And then we list the drawings which constitute the subdivision package, which takes us to the top of page 2. And also the fact that the applicant has submitted a map which constitutes a jurisdictional determination regarding the state-regulated wetland, which is off the property, and there's a little bit of buffer on the property. Then we mentioned that an application for subdivision approval dated blank, and Sandy, if you could help me with that. I didn't have a copy of that in my file. And we give the date of the full environmental assessment form, which was submitted. Then the next whereas, the planning board is familiar with the subject property and has reviewed the subdivision in accordance with chapters, and this would be the subdivision and the other approvals, in accordance with chapters 167, 176, 183, and 200 of the Austining Town Code. And then the fact that the planning board referred the applications for steep slope permit and tree removal permit approvals to the town EAC for its advisory opinion, and has given due consideration to said opinions. And then the fact that the planning board referred the subdivision application to the Westchester County Planning Board, and that the Westchester County Planning Board responded by letter which concluded that there were no county or intermunicipal issues of concern to the County Planning Board, and that the matter was and that the action was a matter for local determination. And then the next whereas states that the project is a minor subdivision as defined by the town subdivision regulations. And then we give the date in which the public hearing on the subdivision plat was opened and closed, and the fact that the record was left open for additional comments. And then in the last whereas on page 2, we mention that a negative declaration was issued by the planning board in accordance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, thereby ending the secret process. And then at the top of page 3,
This would be where the, we would have the whereas clause dealing with the EAC comments.
we could either have it there, or we could have it in the middle of the page after we say the planning board referred the applications for steep slope permit and tree removal permit approvals to the town EAC. The subdivision does not need to be referred to the EAC, it's just these 2 permits that need to be referred. And in response to that referral, we got correspondence from the EAC, which the planning board has found responding will not change the result of the negative declaration issued in accordance with seeker. So we could build it in here, and Kathy and I can work on that paragraph together. So back to the top of page 3, we have now therefore be it resolved that the planning board is granting subdivision plat approval to the project, as expressed on the subdivision drawing, subject to the following conditions. Then we have a category of conditions which must be fulfilled to the satisfaction of the planning board prior to the subdivision plat being signed by the planning board chairman. And the first is that a subdivision plat prepared by a licensed land surveyor has to be prepared and be satisfactory to the board and its consultants. And the next, let me read these verbatim. A subdivision plat prepared by a licensed land surveyor, the subdivision plat, shall be prepared by the applicant and shall be submitted to the planning board for review by the board and its consultants and for approval by the board. The subdivision plat shall bear all pertinent and appropriate notes and elements from the subdivision drawings. The subdivision drawings and the subdivision plats shall be such that they meet the satisfaction of the planning board's engineering consultant, including but not necessarily limited to the fulfillment of the comments in his memorandum dated October 18, 2017, and any subsequent memorandum or memoranda, and said plan shall therefore be thereafter be endorsed by said engineer. C, the subdivision plat shall be endorsed by the Westchester County Department of Health, indicating the department's approval of the water supply and sewage disposal facilities. D, the applicant shall submit a letter from the Village of Ossining which confirms the adequacy of the municipal water system to serve the proposed lots. E, the applicant shall submit a statement signed by the town receiver of taxes that indicates that all taxes due on the subject property have been paid. The next is kind of lengthy, and it basically requires a recreation fee for the one new lot in the amount required by the Ossining Town Code at the time of the signing of the subdivision plat by the planning board chairman. Top of page 4, G, all outstanding application review fees, including consultant review and legal fees, shall be paid in full.
Can I just interrupt something to ask a question?
Of course.
On D, you have the word proposed lots. Would it be proposed lots? Because it's one additional property or lots? Because you have the plural.
I think we could make that singular, because obviously the one lot is being served already,
Right.
as you say.
Well, actually, because you're creating two, wouldn't it still say multiple plural? You're actually creating.
Well, we're asking the Village of Austin if there's enough water for the new home, actually.
Right, with the new home in addition to the existing home.
Why
So
don't we
should it
put-
stay plural?
Why don't we put the S in parentheses?
Very good, okay.
All right. Then you're both right. Okay. H, the subdivision plat shall state that the new home on lot 2 shall have a sprinkler system. Said notation shall be to the satisfaction of the building inspector. I, the applicant shall submit a performance guarantee or guarantees for the construction of the proposed driveway, private roadway, and for repair of any existing driveway on Hillcrest Drive that may be damaged during construction. This performance guarantee or guarantees shall meet the satisfaction of the planning board attorney in terms of form and the planning board's engineering consultant in terms of dollar amount. J, the following conditions shall be fulfilled to the satisfaction of the town planner. 1, sheets 1, 6, and 7 specified above shall be removed from the set of drawings, and the remaining sheets shall be renumbered accordingly. 1 has to do with the 3-lot former subdivision proposal. 6 and 7 have to do with the 10 and 12% driveway grades that are no longer applicable. 2, on sheets 8 and 9, the 10% and 12% driveway grade alternatives shall be removed from said sheets. 3, the above specified drawing shall state that none of the improvements approved by the planning board shall permanently or unnecessarily impede access to any of the lots immediately adjacent to Hillcrest Drive. The plan shall also state that with the prior approval of proposed improvements by the planning board, the proposed guide rail may be removed in order to allow access to Hillcrest Drive and the proposed driveway from the lots immediately adjacent to Hillcrest Drive, and that the applicant or his successor in interest shall have an affirmative obligation to remove said guide rail to allow access at his sole cost and expense. For the above
So
specified.
let us just focus on that for a moment.
Sure.
Because it's been moved now, it's no longer in the way, if I understood correctly.
That's what I was going to say. That was one of the previous comments was that we move that guardrail, we pull it far enough to the east that would allow a full 16-foot access to properties from the south in the event the properties to the south ultimately are going to use Hillcrest. So there's really no reason to move the guardrail once it's installed, as long as it's installed correctly, and there is 16 feet of passable. So it might be moot, but maybe we should just clarify that in that comment. In the event that a full 16-foot width is not provided, then the guardrail would have to be moved. But as the drawings show now, 16 feet is provided, so.
And it's supposed to be put in accordance with the plan.
Right,
So if this is built out properly, there's no need to move it.
correct. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so to be clear, that basically the neighbor who's concerned about having access to that driveway has been taken care of by this provision, by this paragraph.
Right, and we can write it such that if
By the
there isn't a
plan.
clear 16 feet,
She's been taken care of by the plan.
By the new
By
plan.
the plan.
That's already here.
But yeah, if it's built incorrectly, then this comment is appropriate. So maybe it's just a clarification.
Right.
Can I also ask a question on that section 3 also? You have the word his. Like his or hers or theirs or the applicant. Why is it addressed as like a male and not a person?
why don't we say its successor? The applicant and its successor.
Well, 'cause the applicant
And
is
then just say applicant's successor. which
Getting
means
Applicant
person.
success.
Getting into the whole,
Shall we just say applicant's successor?
yes.
Okay.
It's an important discussion going on in society right now.
Right,
Pronouns.
I'm just looking at something that it shouldn't be.
Yeah, but in this case, it's actually not using the his, because it is a his, it's Butler is a his, Butler's the applicant, so it's correctly referring, he's a
Yeah.
male, so we're not using the his
Right,
to mean
right.
his and her.
Okay.
Maybe we should ask Mr. Butler what pronoun he uses.
Let's not open that one. Okay.
I was just trying that.
4, any other questions on paragraph 3? That's not paragraph 3? No? Okay. 4?
Okay. Let me just make one little mark here.
So are we saying here, and in the event a full 16-foot width
Yeah.
is not provided, the applicant
Right.
or applicant's successor initiates the
Yes.
affirmative obligation?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, 4.
so do we need 4, since the plan shows the screening here?
Well, there's actually no screening, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, there's no screening on the common lot line between 1 and 2.
No, we're not showing that.
So we're suggesting there be a bit of screening along the common property line between the existing home and the new home. Not extensive, just a few trees.
Okay.
5, sheets 10 and 11 shall be modified to show access to lots adjacent to Hillcrest Drive directly from Hillcrest Drive and not traversing other lots in the process. It's on your plan right now, Dave. It looks like to get to one of the lots, you have to cross a different lot.
I don't think so.
I think that's true. And then we were gonna strike number 6.
Where is that, David?
Sandy Coop, please, to that one right there.
Access to lots adjacent to Hillcrest Drive.
Do you see the access off of the driveway to the lots to the west?
I'd rather have it link to it.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I think that's where the existing driveway is now.
Right, but we were gonna show access from the proposed drive to each individual lot. I don't think it's hard to do.
Okay, I probably just don't understand the question, I'm sorry. And it's, do you understand?
It's on the corner
Can I come up there, Dave?
Yeah, sure. So, are these things that
Yes. Yeah, and this she owns two, and she owns this. So all three of these.
okay. I think we can strike this one.
That's all existing.
Right, what I meant was showing access to this one individually, this one individually.
Oh, yeah, I believe, and perhaps, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name, the owner of the lot immediately to the south of Kantrowitz?
That's Miss Warden, she's not here.
Okay, maybe you know, she owns.
Could I come up, because I can't see?
Sure.
Sure.
I believe that she owns this lot, and this lot,
That's
correct?
correct.
Yeah.
And this is mine.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that is the same owner.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
So I think we can strike that paragraph.
Paragraph 5.
Paragraph, yes, paragraph 5 and 6. Okay, so the next paragraph basically states that the applicant has 180 days to fulfill the conditions we just went over and submit the plat to the planning board chairman for his signature. And the planning board may, however, extend the time for periods of 90 days each in which the requirements must be fulfilled and said plat is to be submitted for signature if in its opinion the particular circumstances warrant such extensions. It used to be 2 90-day periods, period, and now the state law says unlimited 90-day periods. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit for Lot 2, the applicant shall A, secure architectural approval from the Architectural Review Board, B, secure approval from the planning board's engineering consultant as to the guide rails design consistent with the planning board's goal to have said design in keeping with the residential character of the neighborhood. C, move the mailbox to the following location at applicant's sole cost and expense. And we have a blank there.
Has the applicant decided which location he's going to?
I was of the understanding that we were deferring to anything that you were putting out. Are we talking about right now for the existing home or for the future home?
Well, I believe one of the members of the public had mentioned there was other mailboxes at issue here. And so the question is, I thought the applicant was going to discuss with the members of the public who were concerned about this issue and clarify the location they were putting it in.
We have not done that, we will do that. We apologize. This is the mailbox I think we were discussing on Deer Trail.
Someone was saying it was under a tree or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, a tree, yes.
So just, is that neighbor here at this point? Okay, so just so you recognize who they are?
Yeah.
Okay, should we keep going?
Yes, keep on.
Okay. The applicant shall submit a construction management plan to be approved by the planning board's engineering consultant, which includes location or locations for stockpiling and construction equipment and sets forth the staging of construction consistent with condition 3B below. Category 3, the following are general conditions which shall be fulfilled as the project progresses to completion. A, the applicant has an affirmative obligation to remove the guide rail in the event of the future extension of the driveway. I'm thinking that we should delete this and make sure that the paragraph previously regarding the guide rail is complete. This is redundant and probably shouldn't be here in the first place.
Okay, as long as there's that provision that says that if it's needed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if there's not 16 feet of clearance, then the applicant has the affirmative obligation to move the guide rail. B, with respect to the staging of construction, the construction of Lot 2 shall occur before the top course of asphalt is placed on the driveway, so that said road is not damaged as a result of the improvement or construction on Lot 2. C, at the time of the proposed driveway improvement, the applicant's engineer shall do a core sample of the existing driveway in the field to determine and certify the thickness of said driveway. If determined necessary by the planning board's consulting engineer, the applicant shall supplement the thickness of the existing driveway. And then we have our stock paragraph regarding the payment of application review fees within 30 days of notification that fees are due. And that if the fees are not paid within this 30-day period and the extension therefore has not been granted by the planning board, this resolution shall be rendered null and void. And then paragraph E basically says that once the plat is signed by the planning board chairman, the applicant has 62 days to file the plat in the office of the county clerk, Division of Land Records. F states that once the filed map is in the county clerk's office, the applicant shall submit 3 copies of the filed map to the town building and planning department. G, all construction on this project shall be in accordance with best management practices, and no portion of this approval by the planning board shall take effect until all conditions herein are met. And then we have a further be it resolved that the planning board is granting a tree removal permit for the various trees that would be removed, and that there are 8 findings that are basically right out of the code that the planning board has to make in order to grant a tree removal permit. Then be it further resolved, I'm on page 7 now, that the project is hereby granted tree removal permit approval, subject to the following conditions and modifications and any of the requirements which must be met by law. After approval by the planning board, the tree removal permit is valid for the duration of the construction of the project. All permits shall expire upon completion of the work specified herein. Permits may be renewed by the planning board. The standards for issuance of renewals may, at the discretion of the planning board, be the same as for the issuance of the original permit. And then we have the planning board granting steep slope protection approval. And again, we have 5 findings that the planning board must make in order to grant a steep slope protection approval. And then be it further resolved, and then we basically have the same kind of paragraph regarding the fact that the steep slope permit approval is valid for the duration of the construction of the projects, and the rest, as I just read, regarding the tree removal permit. And that's the end. Oh, and by the way, this was worked on by Kathy and me. Kathy is the brains of the operation.
Could I ask a question, Dave?
Sure.
On page 6, I guess it's 3E. 3E, driveway maintenance and access easement agreements mentioned in condition 1E above.
That should be gone.
That paragraph?
Yes, the whole paragraph.
Okay.
And maybe we should discuss that.
The paragraph that we don't feel should not be in this approval is, based on the fact that the applicant has already offered a proportionate values in terms of usage of the paper road, and since it's not a town designated road, the planning board does not feel at this time that it can mandate a particular breakdown of the proportions. However, it clearly would be to the benefit of all the parties involved to have some type of agreement, and we would be happy to incorporate the agreement into this approval in order to establish the rights of the parties involved. Anything else?
Yeah, I even think we could potentially, under 2, prior to the issuance of the building permit, include a condition that the applicant has to submit any maintenance agreement entered between the property owners along Hillcrest, if any, and offer proof of recording that. But if there is no such maintenance agreement, that doesn't preclude the issuance of the building permit. So basically, it gives an opportunity for the applicant to discuss a maintenance agreement with the neighbors that we would then incorporate and facilitate the entering into, and put that as part of this approval, so it would be on the record. But if it can't be entered into, that's not gonna preclude the issuance of the building permit. So there's not gonna be a mandate from this board that only one property owner maintain it. So if they can't come to a resolution, then it's just gonna continue how it's been right now. Whatever's been happening now is gonna continue. with-
No worse than it was before.
No worse. With, you're gonna have to figure it out.
Any comments from the board?
I mean, I think the board would prefer that the neighbors take control of their own destiny and come up with something that works for the neighbors, rather than the board imposing something arbitrary, so.
Well, we'll do our best to work it out. That's all we can do.
Dan, do you have any further comments?
No, the last go around, the plans addressed my comments, and I guess this was a short set, so based upon the sheets that are coming out, we'll do a final look at whatever the revised set of plans are, as well as the subdivision plan. And at this point, we'll work with the applicant if we have any comments to get those resolved.
Any comments on the board this time?
The only thing I had is the trees that they wanna put in, the evergreens, does someone have to, like, say, a native, evergreen, or native to the, to Westchester or New York State, and a specific size?
David's specifying, you're specifying both the species and the size,
Yeah.
and we've checked those.
So that was on the plan, okay.
Yes, it's already on the plan,
And they're native,
and they're native and they're non-invasive.
not invasive, that's the word.
Isn't that a code requirement?
It is
Yeah.
nowadays, yeah.
Any other
Mr. Chairman, do you want to also note for the record that we received correspondence from the EAC and whether the board is going to be adopting the advisory? opinion?
Well, we've already mentioned that in the resolution, that we have received the comments from the EAC. But just to highlight our appreciation to the EAC for their efforts in this, yes, we had received the comments from Mitzielka's concerning the EAC's comments on this particular application. The board, I believe, has reviewed it. There's no objections to it from the board members. We reviewed the comments on it. We found that none of the comments would have changed our negative declaration already on record. And however, we do appreciate the effort that the EAC had put into the report, and we'll endeavor to work with them more closely in the future.
And you don't agree that a revised EAF needs to be submitted by the applicant? The planning
No,
board's
and
not-
in fact, the EAC was very clear that it was not necessary at this time. Any other comments?
No.
Okay, any comments from the public?
I had a question about some of the language of one sentence.
Sure.
Having to do with the access,
Just to give you a name.
oh, I'm sorry, Judith Harris, 2 Gordon Avenue. This is my notes, I might not have gotten this exactly right, but, I believe you stated that, with regard to the access and 16 feet, before the part where you're gonna add the 16 feet, the sentence is something like, none of the improvements shall impede access to any of the lots immediately adjacent on Hillcrest. The phrase, any of the lots immediately adjacent, it seems like it could be interpreted 2 ways, adjacent to the improvements or adjacent to the entire lot of the applicant. If it's just read as adjacent to the improvements, it could be just read as only adjacent to the driveway itself. My lots are not adjacent to the driveway, they are past it, so I think it would be more inclusive if that were amended to add the language, none of the improvements shall impede access to any of the lots immediately adjacent to the Butler lots, the lots of the applicant, lots plural, because otherwise it could be just read to be adjacent to the driveway. My property is not actually adjacent to the driveway. So I would like to have that be more inclusive.
It doesn't use the word driveway.
No, okay, I know, but you're saying none of the improvements, and what if it were
No,
interpreted by a successor that the improvements were just the driveway?
The lots and.
No, it talks about shall, I'll read it slowly.
Which section, David?
This is, page 4, number 3.
J3.
J3. The above specified drawing shall state that none of the improvements approved by the planning board shall permanently or necessarily impede access to any of the lots immediately adjacent to Hillcrest Drive.
Your lot is adjacent to Hillcrest Drive.
Yes, okay. I think my notes were maybe abbreviated, and what you're saying, I think solves that.
It's hard to keep track when you don't have a copy in front of you.
Right, that would have been helpful, and I'm not a medieval scribe, so.
Right. Totally understandable.
Thank you.
Sure.
Also, on the first, one of the whereas clauses notes that Hillcrest Drive, and it says a paper street in quotes, so it's very clear what what is being referred to as Hillcrest Drive.
Obviously, I just want to make sure there was no arbitrary cutoff
Sure,
by future readers.
sure.
Any other comments from the public?
Thank you, Picosa, 409 Chappaqua Road. Is there a proposal for a public sewer system? Because if I read the map differently, I see a public sewer system coming out.
There's just an
onto-
easement for some conceivably future situation.
So this is not something part of the proposal?
There's no sewer main going in on this. It's
Okay.
just an easement for the betterment of the town someday, perhaps in the future.
All right, because I looked at past maps and it wasn't there, and all of a sudden
Just an
it
easement.
appeared on
Just-
this.
You'll see no sewer line in that easement. It's just, you know what an easement is, obviously. Yeah, it's just an easement.
Okay.
It's just for future planning purposes, but they're putting in a septic system.
Right. Thank you.
Any other comments?
So the question with the, I wasn't at the last couple, the widening of the road, is it
Name.
only coming toward,
Name,
Yeah,
please?
so-
Scott Campus, 3 Hillcrest Drive? Is it coming toward their property, or is it widening toward, the two homes along, Hillcrest? I can't make out where the widening is.
It's actually a little bit of both.
Should change the plan.
It's probably easy, you wanna come up to the?
Sure.
Yeah, come on up, I'll show you.
See if we put it on the back, I'll show you.
This line and this line, the lighter lines are the existing driveway.
Right.
So the dashed line is the widening part. So over here is being widened in this direction. Over here it's being widened here. Here it's the same because you've got that stone wall right here, so we're not touching that, we're widening it in this
This way,
direction.
okay, that's good.
So it kind of
No.
widens in different.
Change the wording to
The
say.
tree that's right around
They've got to
here,
move
the
it,
big
you know,
tree.
next to a location. that
Yeah,
satisfies
it's
the-
not proposed to be,
So, yeah,
just
just adopt the
It's
resolution.
not gonna be disturbed at all.
Yeah, we just have to come back and tell the planning board what they
That
find.
that was my question. I wasn't sure the width going toward, I was concerned about the masonry.
no, yeah, we didn't want to mess with it. And we've got room over here, so.
Okay.
Resolution, they get, even without a-
Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, what was on us to move on this one?
You would entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Okay, any further comments from the board?
No.
So it will be incorporating all the issues that we described, discussed
Yes,
already?
and with the mailbox, the way I was gonna change that was just to say that the mailbox has to be moved to a location which meets the satisfaction of the planning board. So they'd have to come back in and specify a location and show it on the plans.
Is that acceptable?
Come back,
You have no location for the mailbox that everybody seems to agree to, so you just have to come back
Can we agree to that?
Unless you can agree to it tonight.
You wanna pick a spot now?
Frankly, I don't see any reason why you can't move the mailboxes to the Butler, in front of the Butler property by Hillcrest.
Where would you like it to be?
That's not a tree.
Fair.
A big piece of.
I mean, there's a
Back
lot,
onto our property or in the
there's a lot
common?
on, from the corner of Deer Trail and Boynton.
I prefer it there too.
There's a lot that is an unbuildable lot because of its size.
Bring us to this.
His mailbox is there too.
David,
Right there.
can't this just be another
And there's no
condition
more.
that's,
Another.
can this
On
be
the
another
tree?
condition
Cutting more
that
tree.
will,
Right, okay.
we've gotta modify the plans anyway, we can,
Yeah,
once we
right here.
agree on a spot, we can put it on those modified plans and submit it so that we don't have to come back to the planning board.
But can you agree tonight, because then the planning board can make sure that you're coming up with.
If we make the mailing, I'd have to get you, and he has to make one stop.
Yeah, if you
Scott, don't you think that
Agree.
I think we should move it
On
toward the
Deer
corner
Trail?
of
Do you
Gordon
think
and Deer Trail,
between Boynton and Deer Trail?
We can
Yeah,
probably
where-
knock this
where
out.
the,
Exactly.
60
where the
seconds.
phone poles.
And then move it to this condition. Put it in there.
I think what they're actually saying is further down.
It's not gonna be on
Yeah,
it.
it's not on that map.
Do you have
See
the
where it
grader?
comes? Right there, that's where.
Dave actually on the other.
Okay.
This is actually,
I'll get
You
a
might
better-
wanna use
Okay.
use this one? Use that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
this,
Probably not tomorrow, maybe Friday or Monday.
this is the house, this lot over there needs to, but it's too small to build on. So, put it on here, I think it's better because this is like a dead end kind of.
So where is this at?
Okay, here's
The big evergreen.
the big evergreen is over here.
And where is the mailbox?
Currently, under the big evergreen.
And that's for these people?
No, that's for
This one.
Scott.
Okay, and where do you want it?
You're gonna get here. Would be the easiest.
You
I got
you
no
would
problem
prefer it
with that.
there?
I prefer it down there.
Even though it's further away from your house?
This tree is so
It's a pain in
big.
the ass to go where it is right now.
It
because
is,
It
and it's-
disturbs the tree.
As soon as you.
It's scary because where that evergreen is, there's all maple trees here.
I think it's easier for a
And you can't
postman
see
too.
around it.
Okay, that's,
So
so
the
that's
kids
fine.
are on a bike there
So
trying to.
somewhere in
In
here.
there, yeah.
Great. Done?
How would you describe that for the resolution?
Oh, boy, it is on the,
What sheet?
It's depicted on the plan.
yeah, there you go. Thank you, Dick. On the north side of Deer Trail, approximately 50 to 75 feet
Adjacent to the existing
e-
mailboxes.
e-
No.
east,
No.
east of the Gordon Avenue Deer Trail intersection.
And X marks the spot.
And
It'll be on the plan.
it'll be on plan, yeah. Or
You'll end up
better
being
yet,
part
as depicted on sheet blah, blah,
12 of
blah.
12.
12 of 12.
As a red dot mailbox.
I can get you that language.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe before you submit the plan, you could just show it to the neighbors so that they see it.
We've talked to the postmaster about this, so it's good. We don't care
North side of
bringing
Deer
the
Trail.
laws on our mail.
50 to 75
Yeah.
feet.
Is that anybody's property down there?
It's,
It would be in the town right of way.
it's in the town right away, but it belongs to
So Dave, 50 to
Ronald,
75 feet.
and
East,
there's two lots
east
there.
of
That one
the
happens to be.
Gordon Avenue Deer Trail
too small
intersection.
to build on.
Like 40 feet wide.
It's on Deer
Yes.
Trail,
Yes.
but it's 50 to 75 feet east of Gordon Avenue.
So then we'll take 2C about moving the mailboxes out
Make it
of,
number 6.
yeah, and make it number 6 of J as a plan change, so it'll be reflected on a plan.
So what I have is on the north side of Deer Trail, approximately 50 to 75 feet east of the Deer Trail to Gordon Avenue intersection.
Could you point it out up here? I'm not sure where you're talking.
It's almost pretty much with that little mouse.
Can we go visit this tonight?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's
We'll all
it.
drive over there.
Somewhere,
exactly
somewhere
it.
right in here.
And there are no other mailboxes there?
No,
And the owner of that property is not here?
if I'm the postman.
No, but
I
like,
would
Within
love
the
that.
town right
it's
away.
in the right of way, so it'll be right off the pavement.
As long as it's not within that lot of that property.
These people, Warno, own this piece of property also. Only the lot is, Eileen Fitzgerald was the previous owner, and her son bought that piece of property for her, for that house. The lot isn't big enough to build
I
on.
understand that. I just think that if we were suggesting this and it was one of your lots, I'd be hearing some complaints.
Yeah, well, that's right. But is anything, is that entire property his from the corner already?
This is gonna go this way.
He just butchered some trees over there, so I don't think he makes, I don't know what he's planning to do there, but he did cut down some trees.
Personally, I think you should be putting it in front of the Butler property,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah, it does make it sort of awkward to have, it involve another person or not, party's not present with us right now.
They might have a driveway or something in the future, doesn't matter, you know.
I think you should go in front of the Butler property.
What about that?
Which Butler property though are you talking about?
You wanna point to it? Just point to where you might suggest.
I'm gonna let them decide as long as it's in front of the Butler property.
Is there an area that's feasible?
So anywhere along here? On Hillcrest? Anywhere along?
I don't think the post office,
I don't think
I don't think the postman's gonna go on
I don't think the
Hillcrest.
post
And
office will go on
it's
the.
basically driveway access on,
So then it has to be on Deer Trail. It wouldn't be in front of the Butler property.
Because there's no deer trail in front of the Butler property.
right.
I guess it has to be somewhere on Deer Trail. I guess that's what you're saying.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'd love to.
But I don't think it's appropriate for us to be volunteering someone else's property.
It's actually in the town's right of way.
I understand that.
But it's on deer trail now, right, the mailbox?
Yes.
So we're moving it slightly,
Yeah, and the same
North.
people that are complaining about it being on Deer Trail are trying to move it to in front of someone else's property.
because of a tree, right?
It's not
No,
right.
no, that neighbor's right here, so that's not the problem.
Right, I know.
It's
The
all
problem
woods
is
in
that the
there.
owner of that property is not here.
Mhm.
Would it work on the corner edge of your property line there?
Further down.
Yeah.
Put it down almost, always near the word deer.
That's right.
When you put it near the word deer,
Would that work to, so, I mean,
Yeah, this way it's in front, it's within your
No problem.
frontage.
Okay,
Okay.
so if they put it on, like, or where the word deer is.
Correct,
that's a,
correct.
doesn't change.
Yeah.
Same it's in front of the same property
Same
still.
property, just in front of the word deer.
But no, now it's in front of this property, which I believe is your property.
It's,
So
yes.
it would be here
It's still my property,
instead of here.
correct.
It's
So
still
now
gonna be in
it's-
front of her property, just further away from the tree.
Away
that's-
from the tree.
Right.
Yeah,
Where's
the
the current?
tree is all the way
Okay,
over
it's
here.
currently there. You're gonna move it further up.
Right,
Further
right,
towards Gordon Avenue.
Down,
Okay.
towards Gordon.
right
correct.
between Deer and Trail.
And is that okay with all the folks present?
Where would it go? I'm sorry.
Scott, what do you think?
Right where the hand is.
Right between the words Deer and Trail.
That's up to you, I mean, you fine with that?
I don't have a problem with that.
I'm fine with that.
How far is that?
Anywhere away from that tree area, it's fine with me.
Right.
Now that's
Well,
closer
right
to
over here.
Hillcrest, so why don't we say
You need a scout there?
between 75 and 100 feet
Right, that's all I care about.
west of the Hillcrest Drive Deer
Is that
Trail
the position they have
intersection.
it right now? That they're suggesting right now?
Just change the wording to 100 feet.
west of the Deer Trail, Hillcrest Drive?
Yes,
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, got it.
The person's present there. He's willing to
It's basically still a driveway.
Same property, it's just moving away from the tree.
If the owner's here, I'm good.
She's here. And she said it was fine.
Still on the north side of Deer Trail, David.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
a driveway going into our house.
That's exactly where it is. Right in there. Right in there. Perfect.
It's not off.
That's fine.
No.
Okay, so we have the language down for that location?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, anything else before we ask for a motion here? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay, accepting the resolution with all the provisions that we discussed?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any objections? Aye. Aye.
All in favor, right? That was voting in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Good, unanimous.
Okay, we're done with this? All right,
Yes.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any new business? No new business, okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Thank you. No objections?
Jack, I think we have to hang for a while.
Only you bring the coffee.
Sandy, December 6th meeting, I won't be here.
Oh, okay.
Next one.
Are we having